I'm excited about your interview with Melania. She is so...
I am too. It's going to be fun.
I love her. She's so great. She's so undercovered by the media who just anything connected to Trump, they'll try to trash. But Michelle Obama blinked and she was on the cover of a magazine.
They are mean and abusive to her.
Yeah.
And I have gotten to know her. Smart, lovely, amazing, and I hope America gets to see that tomorrow. It is so unfair what they've done to her.
And I hope she does more of these types of events. I think if and that's not a criticism, but it's a suggestion that the more people get to know her, the more people get to know her, the more they're going to like her. So don't make yourself so scared.
Remember, English is her fifth language, and she is such a success on her own. The best part is, and the president was at 49% in his approval rating today. Obviously, all the hysteria of the left isn't working. But her approval ratings are higher. And I have reminded the president of that in the past.
Oh, yeah, he loves that. Sean, I can't wait. I'm so glad you're doing that. Give her my best. She's one of my favorites.
And I'll see you in D.C. tomorrow. Have a great show.
Sounds great. All right. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. An Oval Office throwdown where Democrats' pleas for privacy reveal they're losing hand on immigration. Plus, the disgusting origin story of the radical women's march. We're going to have a new expose that may imperil some of the Democrats' newest stars. And this story is completely wacko. Vice News is promoting an overseas vacation retreat that bans white people. Yes, it's true. The debate over what can only be described as a new form of voluntary segregation. But first, Guardians of the Fallacy. That's the focus of tonight's angle. The political and media establishment, they've been at war, and a Cold War, really, with Donald Trump for more than 3 years now. And from the outset, he represented everything they hate, and not just his America First policies, but his brash, take-no-prisoners style that threatened to crash their exclusive club. But as the Mueller probe and its new New York offshoot come to a head, the media feel well-positioned to recast their image from #fake news to galaxy-saving superheroes. Like Batman or Aquaman, they've decided to try a franchise reboot. The first comes courtesy of Time Magazine's Person of the Year.
As we looked at the choices, it became clear that the manipulation and abuse of truth is really the common thread in so many of this year's major stories, from Russia to Riyadh to Silicon Valley. And so we chose to highlight 4 individuals and 1 group who have taken great risks in pursuit of greater truths.
Now, I only caught the last part of what he said when I first saw this, and I thought, oh, wow, they're giving it to, like, China's persecuted Christians? That's amazing. Well, instead, Time Magazine has kept the award kind of inside the family and named a group of journalists as the People of the Year with the understated title, The Guardians and the War on Truth. The group includes slain journalist Jamal Khashoggi and the Capital Gazette staff, which lost members, of course, when a shooter opened fire on their offices. Of course, we love objective journalists, and the targeting of reporters just because they're doing their jobs is despicable. But also, isn't there something kind of transparently self-serving about journalists giving awards to other journalists? Well, now, to his credit and professionalism, Capital Gazette editor Rick Hutzel expressed uneasiness about the recognition. He said, "I hate being the story." And he added that this was the first sit-down interview he had done since that June attack. Good for him. By the way, as an aside, later in the show, we will reveal whom we would have picked for Persons of the Year. So stay with us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But by the way, Time isn't the only aging outfit trying to resurrect its damaged reputation. Retired senators are also lumbering back from obscurity to claim the mantle of moral and intellectual superiority. Rising from the political dead, they promise that their wisdom will save us from Trump. You've got to read between the lines. All you need to know, though, was that the op-ed was the brainchild of Trump basher extraordinaire Chuck Hagel and Connecticut liberal Chris Dodd. They said in part, "We are on the eve of the conclusion of the special counsel Robert S. Mueller investigation and the House's commencement of investigations of the president and his administration. We urge current and future senators to be steadfast and zealous guardians of our democracy by ensuring that partisanship or self-interest not replace national interest. Well, kind of high-minded malarkey signifying nothing. You know, look, I will forever salute Chuck Hagel's military service, but that doesn't give him immunity from political criticism that's just kind of brain dead. Where was the bipartisan cabal when we needed guardians of the rule of law and transparency during the Obama years? Fast and Furious, Benghazi, the IRS scandal, the Clinton email cover-up, the horrors at the VA, the green energy boondoggles involving companies like Solyndra, just to name a few. Where were these 44 senators when we needed guardians of our border? Where were they when we needed guardians against the rigged trade deals that empowered a ruthless communist regime in China? And where were they when we needed guardians against activist judges who stray far, far beyond their Article III powers? Look, Donald Trump ain't perfect. None of us are. None of us is, to be grammatically correct. But he's done more in 2 years to try to safeguard America, the country we love, than all of those senators who signed that op-ed combined. The media and failed politicos are guardians. They're guardians of a fallacy that the American people need protection from their own political choices. The president was duly elected and is entering the 3rd year of his first term. But the media and political establishment are still in denial. Do you notice, by the way, that they've basically given up on substantive debate on any of the issues that Trump is really tackling? Instead, they often prefer personal invective to pragmatic solutions.
The president has very little in the way of attention span. The president is undisciplined.
Secretary Tillerson, called him an effing moron, which, not for nothing, is the highest rank of moron. That's achievable.
He gets bored after about 15 seconds of even people talking to him.
He doesn't want information. He comes into the job with very little knowledge.
Well, if he's that uninformed, how did he beat all you smart people? That's my question. My friends, populist-style movements are popping up all over the world. They're challenging the old political orders that have failed to raise the standard of living of their own people or to safeguard the culture. Folks aren't mad because they enjoy being mad. They're mad because politicians have screwed things up so badly across the board. But the guardians of the old order, they right now feel empowered by Trump's legal woes and a new Democrat majority in the House.
Call a halt to this. We've come in here as the first branch of government, Article 1, the legislative branch. We're coming in good faith to negotiate with you about how we can keep the government
Open.
We're
going to keep it open if we have border security. If we don't have border security, Chuck, we're not going to keep it open.
I'm with you. We are going to have border security.
And it's the same border. You're bragging about what has been done.
By us.
We want to do the same thing we did last year, this year. That's our proposal. If it's good then, it's good now, and it won't shut down the government.
Chuck, we can build a
But that's
much
it.
bigger section with
debate,
more money.
Let's debate in private. Okay? Yeah, let's debate in private.
Let's keep all this private. Well, then the media guardians, they jumped in with their questions.
Border security.
What it means to have border security.
Yeah, we need border security. The wall is a part of border security.
We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy.
No,
it's called transparency.
We shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute, and you want to shut it down. You keep talking about
it. The last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened
20
it up
times.
If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am proud, and I'll tell you what,
disagree.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck.
Well, it's pretty amazing watching this whole thing play out, because by refusing to be cowed by warnings that a partial government shutdown would damage him and his party politically, well, the president is actually doing what the retired senators claim to want. He's standing on principle by acting on the urgent need to preserve the sovereignty and security of our country. And by the way, notice what Pelosi said several times during that very fiery exchange.
The point is that there are equities to be weighed, and we're here to have a conversation in a prayerful way. So I don't think we should have a debate in front of the press on this.
We would do it immediately. We'd get it passed very easily in the House.
No, that's
We
not-
would get it. That's the problem.
Again, let us have our conversation, then
That's
we can
right.
meet with the press again.
Wait a second. I thought the liberals were all about transparency and protecting the guardians of the truth. But the moment the guardians report on their conversations, Nancy wants them shooed out of the room. This exchange shows in dramatic fashion why Trump has so confounded the establishment. He pulls the veil back, allowing the American people to see just how unreasonable and how petty the Democrats have become. Because an agreement on wall funding may give Trump, I guess, a partial victory, they refuse to budge, even if the DACA kids end up getting a path to citizenship in the process, which they would have gotten last February. And no matter how much a deal would help the country, guess what? The Democrats don't care. Score settling and preventing Trump from declaring victory on something. And that's the angle. Joining me now with a reaction is Raheem Kassam, Lincoln Fellow at the Claremont Institute and author of the new piece, Time's Failing Person of the Year list, a product of cultural decline. David Goodfriend, former aide to President Clinton, is also here, along with Jeffrey Lord, contributing editor to the American Spectator and former aide to President Reagan. Raheem, let's start with you. Your thoughts on the failure of the media and Democrats who can't seem to grasp the current moment. What happened today, for instance?
They love slapping themselves on the back, and the Time magazine cover is just more of them slapping themselves on the back and saying, you know, we are the people that you should all aspire to and that you should all listen to. I mean, you remember when I think it was the Hillary Clinton emails came out and they said, you know, you're not supposed to read this, the public aren't supposed to read it, but we'll filter this for you and you just listen to what we say. And the same thing you saw happening today as well. I mean, imagine that room, imagine the Oval Office, if the roles had been reversed and those were Republicans sitting there and it was a Democrat president, you know, would the press have gone to such great extent as they did today to go, oh, what an absolute mania happened today in the Oval Office. This is unbelievable. It's extraordinary. And they wouldn't have done it. And they never did it under Obama. Remember, Obama used to kick people out of press conferences too. But it only gets reported on when it's President Trump. So for me, you know, the two things couldn't have timed themselves to better together today. The Time magazine front cover and what we saw unfold in the Oval Office.
David, here are some of the persons of the year runner-ups. We had Mueller. You could actually make a decent case for Mueller being the person of the year. You had Markle. Let's give a nod to the Brits with Markle.
Please don't.
You had Putin. You had Blasey Ford, JN, and then you had, it says David Trump on my sheet, but I assume they mean Donald Trump. So, I mean, journalists giving awards to other journalists, I mean, there's lots of heroism out there. We have some ideas coming up later on in the show, but it's a little self-serving, don't you think? And it's part of the bubble of the media and politics, which I'm probably part of. I try not to be, but I'm here, so I'm probably part of it. I'm probably part of the problem.
Well, you invite me on your show, so I like you.
But I like you, so that's okay. We like each other. Yeah, Raheem hates all of us. Jeffrey, we don't even want to talk about late at night. We don't even have a glass of wine on the set.
So I'm going to shock Raheem here and say that I don't often agree with things I read in the Daily Caller, and I don't often agree with what you write, Raheem. However, I do think Bob Mueller would have been an excellent choice. I mean, we have a memo now that names the president as an unindicted co-conspirator. When's the last time that has happened?
They haven't used
we
that
have
phrase.
33 indictments around the world, not just Americans. We have senior White House staff who have been convicted or committed crimes.
Unindicted
That's
co-conspirator.
incredible.
Wait a second. Are we supposed to be the guardians of the truth here?
Hold on a second.
They don't say that in the name one place it says that.
It says individual one was working with Cohen.
Don't
and
throw that
is
word
exactly
co-conspirator around, partner.
Unindicted
You're a little
co-conspirator.
ahead of
But I
yourself
agree with
there.
you. I agree with you. I think Bob Mueller would have been a fantastic choice because he really has changed the world. Not since Richard Nixon.
Journalists
have
are
we seen
self-serving.
so
All right,
much
let's
of
go,
this.
Jeffrey.
I think that was a good choice. I back Bob Mueller as your suggestion for who should be next.
They're great.
Yeah, we got to get to
They're
Jeff.
great talking points, but put it this way: it says for better or worse, people that have impacted the world.
All right.
And Bob Mueller did do that.
I agree. I agree.
Well, but
with you.
when they gave it to Trump, Jeffrey, we don't want to spend all our time on this. When they gave it to Trump, it has to be this snarky comment. This is back in 2016. He shocks the world by winning the presidency. They had to give it to him. You know, they hated to give it to him. For reminding America that demagoguery feeds on despair and that truth is only as powerful as the trust in those who speak it. You know, then the picture of Obama is so like aspirational. Then the picture of Trump is this menacing figure on a wingback chair, like turning around. Trump looks like horror. It just right down to the photo they select. It's so obvious.
My favorite is that in 2008, when President Obama was elected and was selected as Person of the Year, I'm not kidding you, they compared him to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Seriously. And then we get to Donald Trump, and he's the president of the divided states of America, and he's a demagogue and all of this. I mean, this is what they do. This is why Time magazine has been sold 3 times, gotten rid of by its parent company, bought by somebody else, who then sold it again a few months after they got it.
Yeah, diminishing readership.
I mean, their audience is going down.
Yeah, this is a shtick. Everyone, the magazines love doing lists because lists always sell. Click, click, click. Oh, 10, top 10. This, the list. It's lazy journalism. Okay, so we got to move to Pelosi because Pelosi reacted after the Oval Office, which you couldn't take your eyes off of. It was wild today. She comes out and she makes a comment about why she was concerned about the transparency of it all. Let's watch.
I will just say this, you want to know if it was more productive behind the scenes. I hear some of the reporters saying, well, Fox reporters saying, why did we not want transparency in this discussion? We didn't want to contradict the president when he was putting forth figures that had no reality to them, no basis in fact.
Raheem, no basis in fact. I mean, the fact Donald Trump has wanted a wall for more than 3 years. Yeah. He's arguing and fighting for the wall. I guess she's referring to when he said certain sectors have less immigration. I'm not sure whether that was accurate. I never have gotten a read on that. I'm not sure that was accurate or not. But she's not shy about criticizing him ever in public.
For somebody who makes her living by criticizing this president, you'd think she'd want every camera in the room. If she's so certain that he's saying falsehoods, then put all the cameras in the world in the room and get everyone to report on it. It seems utterly bizarre that take it back from sort of partisan politics, but from a campaigning standpoint, which is what she's doing here, you would want that if you believed you were in the right. You only don't want that if you don't believe you're in the right, or that you don't believe that your oratory can cut through with the American people. And I think she gets that.
Again, weren't Democrats always against? Weren't Democrats and a lot of Republicans, at least the populists, were against the backroom deals, like smoke-filled rooms where all the decisions are made and all the people come out afterward and say, "This is how you dumb little people are going to live," because we already made the decisions. Backslapping, we had a beer together, then we were going to tell you how to live. These cameras come in and we actually see what they say when they're a little nervous. You see the body language of Schumer. I loved it from beginning to end. I love seeing them squirm with Trump.
I don't know if it's the British accent or the ascot. I'm agreeing with you so much tonight.
Okay,
we're not making for good television, but I will tell you this. No disrespect to Nancy Pelosi or to Chuck Schumer, but did you notice who was missing? Did you notice who was missing? The people actually running the Congress? Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, who are actually running the Congress right now. Wow. They are running the lame duck Congress. These people have nothing to do with the final deal.
He needed to
have all of the leaders there, and that's why it was such good television, Laura, because it was staged by Donald Trump.
Admit it, wasn't it brilliant for Trump to call them in? I mean, they came into his sandbox.
And Laura, but I'll tell you this: the shutdown is still going to be on here, and we will win elections.
We're going to get to the shutdown. We're getting into the politics of the shutdown and the mechanics of what's going to happen in the next block, but. Jeffrey, I think this was classic Trump, taking control of the narrative. It wasn't all clean and perfect, believe me. I mean, I think a couple little things he said, I might have said them differently. But he was engaged. He was engaged. He's like, look, we're doing this.
Yes, that's exactly right. And if you notice, you couldn't help but notice Nancy Pelosi's little dig. She says, well, a reporter asked, and then she backs up and says, a Fox reporter asked. Oh, my goodness, heaven forbid that somebody commit journalism in the Oval Office.
No, again,
it's just astounding.
I think we're getting back to the theme of my angle. The guardians of the truth. Right. And when these 44 senators come out, bipartisan, they come out, the big op-ed, and Panetta was one of them. I want to play a little snippet from what he said today with Andrea Mitchell. Let's watch.
We have just seen a perfect example of how not to govern the country, to have that kind of dispute and do it openly before the press at a time when they really do need to sit down and see if there's a way to work out a deal here. But to confront each other that way and to have everybody yelling at one another, I think has just sent a terrible message to the American people about how our democracy functions in Washington.
Does he know his history? How democracy, I mean, they were dueling in the U.S. Congress. I mean, democracy is rough and tumble. People are arguing at their dinner tables. It's okay. We're going to survive an Oval Office, some
No, I understand. But listen,
discomfort.
don't you think
They're
that
all
there's
worried
a difference
about it.
between
Give me a
theatrics and results? If that debate had
Trump
actually,
gets results. They do personal invective.
If he shuts down the government, is that a good result?
Yes.
I think absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. The majority of Americans, through the polling that just occurred in the election, seem to disagree. So we'll find out again.
Didn't hurt him last time it happened.
Actually, you just lost the House, and actually, you say that's just fine. I agree. That really is what conservatives think. They're like,
2013
we'll just shut it all
shutdown, which was a real shutdown. That didn't hurt the Republicans.
Not everyone has to agree all the time, as you and I don't have to agree all the time.
Correct.
But there is a goal in mind. That man was elected on that goal, and he's going to do it.
He's got to get that wall built, and it's got to be a wall. It can't be like a patchwork see-through drones. All right, Jeffrey, sorry, we got to go. We'll have a longer segment back. Sorry about that. Since Time Magazine couldn't pick a satisfying person of the year, we're going to do it later on in the hour. Up next, we'll be on the border. Stay there. This is a Fox News alert. Yet another terror attack on a Christmas market in Europe, this time near the city of Strasbourg, France. And officials there confirming that 3 people were killed, another 12 wounded when the terrorists sprayed gunfire into the holiday crowd and then took off. French authorities confirming the suspect previously known to authorities, and at this hour, he is still outstanding. We will update you on any developments as they come to us. Very disturbing news out of France tonight.
A shutdown is not worth anything, and that you should not have a Trump shutdown. You have the White House, the Trump shutdown. You have the White House. You have the Senate. You have the House of Representatives. You have the votes. You should pass it.
No, but I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste time.
Well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The House we can get passed very easily, and we do. But the problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote, and they won't vote.
Now, Pelosi challenged the president and Republicans in the House, and they might call her bluff. House Republicans said late today they will try to pass a $5 billion funding bill for the wall. This would be a stunning rebuke of Nancy Pelosi. And my question is, would a shutdown put pressure on Schumer to cough up the Democratic votes needed to avoid a filibuster? For answers, we're joined by House Majority Whip Steve Scalise and former acting head of ICE and Fox News contributor Tom Homan. Congressman, was this part of a coordinated plan? Was this all planned out, or was this the president kind of shooting from the hip on his own instincts?
Well, Laura, this is the president saying, I'm going to call you on your bluff. You know, you want to talk about shutting down the government. You want to talk about blocking border security. I'm going to bring you into the White House and lay out exactly why we need to secure the border. And frankly, President Trump laid out a lot of real important specific details why it's important that we secure the border. The illegal crossings that happen every single day, 10 known terrorists, according to Homeland Security, on average, that come across our border every day. In the caravan, over 600 convicted criminals that are part of that caravan. We need to secure the border. President Trump ran on securing the border. It's time we back him up on it.
Tom, look, you've been in the fight and the thick of this for so long, and I frankly, I said this on radio this morning, I cannot believe we're here.
No,
the country is, this is a crisis at our southern border. Toxic environmental mess, health crisis, humanitarian. Little kids' lives are being endangered down there. Human trafficking, drugs, guns, all the rest, gang activity. And that's just getting started.
Yeah, I've said it over and over again. Look, I don't care for Republican or Democrat. There is no downside on securing our border. It means less illegal immigration, which means you don't bankroll the criminal organizations that have killed our officers. And there's less illegal immigration, less drugs, less illegal immigration. I don't see the downside. The only thing I wish Trump would have asked Schumer on camera, well, you voted for 2006 border barrier. What changed other than the anti-Trump agenda?
Yeah, Kellyanne Conway made that point earlier, and others. I mean, Obama, all these guys spoke so passionately about the need to have this fence, but now Trump says it's a wall, and oh, no, we only got to give a pittance of the money. By the way, Jackie Speier, Congressman, spoke out today. I want to share it with you. Let's watch.
He could set up that opportunity to test out his theory that he has the votes. I don't think he has the votes in the House. He's acting like he's a cornered animal, and he lashes out. That's not the description of any president that I want in charge of our country.
Okay, let me go back to the point I made in the last segment. Rather than offer a substantive menu of solutions here, it is personal invective. It is Trump is this, Trump is that, he's a dictator. And you should hear what she said. There's no solutions. They're not going to argue about how we're going to do it better, or we actually have a plan for reforming asylum laws that's really going to cut the flow. It's Trump's a bad person. Is she right, though? Do you have the votes?
Well, Laura, first of all, there is strong support in the House.
Do you have the votes?
For securing the border and giving the president
what
the
does
tool
that
he
mean?
needs.
Do you have the votes for the
So
wall?
if the president says $5 billion is what I need, and ideally you try to get an agreement with the Senate, and that means you have to have some Democrats as part of that agreement. But if not, we can pass it in the House. We've been trying to get an agreement with the Senate because ultimately to get the bill to the president's desk has been the objective, not just to pass a bill in the House, but ultimately we can pass a bill in the House. The president's saying, I'll at least meet with Senate Democrats and House Democrats to see if we can get an agreement. The president is trying to get an agreement to solve the problem. I think what you're seeing right now, and today it was on display in the White House, Washington Democrats want open borders more than they want an
They don't
open
want to
government.
give him a win. Isn't that a big part of this?
That's a big part of it.
He could have solved this last January and February about during the other mini shutdown when the president said, give me the chain migration cuts, the visa lottery. We wanted to verify that.
And Chuck Schumer initially agreed to all of those things, and then the radical left is the ones who went and kind of blew the whole deal up.
President also said something about the wall and its current state that made me curious. Let's watch.
A lot of wall has been built. We don't talk about that, but we might as well start because it's being built right now, big sections of wall, and we will continue that.
I must have missed the wall being built. What wall? Where's it being built, Tom?
Well, I think what he means they're upgrading certain parts of the wall.
That's not a wall. Stop saying it's a wall. There's no wall. If you want a wall, say we don't have the wall, and I know it's bad because he made the promise, but they're not building the wall. Right. So you got to stop saying that. That undercuts. He was great. I thought he was great in the Oval Office. You don't have to.
It was great, but you understand there's about 100 miles of wall being built, but that's not anywhere near where we need to go to get this job done. So there's a small start. But there's a lot more work.
There's not a lot of the wall.
But
it's it was 1,600 miles.
It's not even.
It's not a wall.
It's not the wall that Border Patrol wanted, right?
No.
The Border Patrol they have Rangers at
SEALs trying to penetrate
that wall. The wall they want is the one they need and the one they should be funded. That's not what was funded in the last bill.
And they also want the technology and the tools to keep our Border Patrol agents. And you've seen this, Laura. You've highlighted it.
Yeah.
Our Border Patrol agents are under attack by a lot of the criminals in this caravan. We need the tools to keep our Border Patrol agents safe, who are keeping America safe. That's part of this fight as well.
But I still say if we don't reform those asylum laws, people pouring in on those asylum.
And oh, by the way, every single member of the caravan was offered asylum by Mexico and work permits by Mexico, and they turned it down.
Got to keep the pressure on the Democrats. They're on the wrong side of this, and the American people are with the Republicans.
American people want border security. Let's go get it.
You hit the nail on the head when you said this is the anti-Trump agenda. They don't want to give him a win. Look, you got Schumer and Pelosi. Both support sanctuary policies in their states. So they want a sanctuary policy to keep illegal aliens in, but they don't want to fund a wall to keep them out. You got the two of the worst people in the Oval Office even talking about border security. They put their political futures ahead of this country's security, which is their number one responsibility. Shame on them.
California and New York.
Yeah, they entice people to come here illegally because come to a sanctuary state.
IDs in New York City he gives them all the ideas. They get whatever they want. They get their IDs and they get their ability to work. No problem.
Absolutely. Come to New York City or come to California. You get to a sanctuary state. We won't work with ICE. Welcome.
We'll demonize ICE. Guardians of the Galaxy? Absolutely. I don't think so. All right, guys, thank you so much. Great to see you. And coming up, we've warned you about the deep hatred at the root of the Women's March. You know, they have another Women's March coming up soon in the new year. We have an expose that looks into their shocking origins and the Democrats that it puts at risk. Don't miss this.
I know we will rise to the challenge, and I know we will keep fighting no matter what.
You will remember when women stood strong and stood firm.
We are tired as women of being relegated to simply being thought of as a particular constituency or demographic. Let's buckle in, because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Well, those two supposed Democratic rock stars have become some of the more powerful advocates of the radical group known as the Women's March. Some new details on how that group was started. However, we may have them rethinking their association. Trace Gallagher is live out in our West Coast newsroom with the shocking origin story of the group. Trace.
And Laura, the dichotomy here is certainly stunning. As part of its mission statement, the Women's March says it's committed to fighting anti-Semitism, and yet two of its leaders and most public figures, Tamika Mallory and Carmen Perez, have praised Nation of Islam leader and known anti-Semite Louis Farrakhan. Mallory has called him the greatest of all time and was in attendance this year at Farrakhan's annual address, where he gave Tamika Mallory a shout-out, then proceeded to give a speech replete with anti-Semitic and homophobic remarks. The Women's March says Farrakhan's statements don't align with the group's principles, and Mallory's presence at his annual address was bad judgment. Yet Perez and Mallory have not disavowed his comments, and now Tablet magazine is reporting that during the Women's March first meeting back in November of 2016, both Mallory and Perez endorsed an infamous and debunked anti-Semitic trope that Jews exploited black and brown people and were proven to be leaders of the American slave trade. The controversy is also gaining notice because the Women's March has become, as you noted, a powerful organization and has been endorsed by potential 2020 presidential candidates like California Democratic Senator Kamala Harris and New York Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, both of whom spoke at the Women's March pre-rally in January 2017. It's also worth noting that despite allegations of anti-Semitism among some leaders, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield, the Jewish founders of Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream, are standing by their partnership with Women's March, even marking the partnership with a brand new flavor, Pecan Resist. Laura.
Trace, thanks so much. And joining me now is Ann Coulter, conservative commentator, and LaDawn Jones, a Democratic state rep in Georgia and criminal defense attorney. All right, Ann, why aren't Gillibrand and Kamala Harris and all the other female Democratic leaders who back this group, why aren't they being pressed by any members of the media every time they step in front of a microphone, given the connection between the Nation of Islam leader Farrakhan and this group? By the way, their march, I know, Ann, you and I should go, is January 19th, coming up.
Oh, totally. I'll be there. Laura, I think you know the answer to that question. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these disputes in the Democratic Party base because they all hate one another. I mean, you have the Muslims and the Jews and the various exotic sexual groups and the black church ladies with you know, the college queers. The only thing that keeps the Democratic base together is for them to keep focusing on, no, white men are the ones keeping you down. You must hate white men. It's the one thing they all have in common. So as it becomes increasingly clear that we are not going to get a wall or Trump fulfilling his immigration policies, I mean, the one thing we have to look forward to in the new country is just ginning up all of these hatreds in the Democratic base.
Well, one of the things that was written, LaDawn, about the group, and this is in this new tablet piece, this was by Mercy Morganfield's comment about, and she's the D.C. Coordinator of the march, said this: Bob Bland called me secretly and said, Mercy, they've been in bed with the Nation of Islam since day one. They do all of our security. Is that the group you want doing your security, given the most hateful anti-Semitic comments made over the years by Farrakhan, calling Jews termites most recently, and any number of assorted, sordid things he said?
You know, last time I checked, it is not common for you to ask for the religious preferences of the people who are protecting you when there are those who are threatening your life simply because you're standing up for a woman's right to vote, a woman's right to equal pay. You know, this is a silly non-starter by conservatives trying to split a movement that they know is extremely powerful, and they're afraid of this next march coming up because they know that it will get even more women, progressive women, into office just like it did in this past election. You guys probably should come out. You might learn a thing or two.
Well, actually, I think we're not the ones who are making a big deal of this. I think there are actually some of the founders of the march themselves are very concerned about this anti-Semitic taint within the organization. I think they want the march to be successful. And I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, they put together an amazing array of people. It was a huge turnout. But if the shoe were on the other foot, and it was a bunch of conservatives getting together, and all of a sudden the security for the group was like some David Duke type guy, you guys would be rightly saying, what are you doing? Why are you having them do the security? And I don't think we'd get away, Ann, with saying, well, they're doing security. We don't ask their political views.
Well, you don't have to hypothesize it. There's this group, the Proud Boys. They've defended me all over America. And by the way, they're quite multi-ethnic. And I don't ask what their religion is. They're attacked by being accused of being a group of white men. Like I say, that's the only thing that keeps the Democratic base together, if they keep hating white men. Even though the Proud Boys are not only white men, but what are they being attacked for? For defending people like me.
There's another piece, Mercy, a piece of this tablet article, and I'll read it. It was there that Perez and Mallory allegedly first asserted that Jewish people bore a special collective responsibility as exploiters of black and brown people. And even, according to a close-hand, second-hand source, claimed that Jews were proven to have been leaders of the American slave trade. So this was some of the conspiracy theories at the 2016 inaugural Women's March meeting. Are you concerned about any of that?
Not even remotely concerned. Listen, the organizers have all, and it was quoted in the tablet article, they have denied that this even took place. This, again, is just an attempt to try to slow down a movement that conservatives are really afraid of. Listen, if you know anything about the Women's March, or if you look at their website, you see that the entire purpose is intersectionality. It's about inclusiveness. It's about bringing in people of all races, all genders, and all religions to stand up for a common purpose, which is American women. And I can get why conservatives are concerned, because they know that there are that is a tie that binds us as Americans, worried about our children, worried about the economy. And it's one of those things that you can't split up.
We just heard, was it Kamala Harris who said she was sick of being treated as a demographic group in that soundbite we bumped in with? But that seems like what the Women's March is kind of doing to itself. But I don't think there were a lot of pro-life Democratic women at the march. I don't think so. I didn't think I saw many of them showcased. It was more the celebrities screaming about how they wanted to blow up the White House. I mean, diverse? What do you mean diverse? Diverse in what way? Not intellectual diversity.
The feminists can't even get along with the transgenders. I mean, in Los Angeles, you have Mexicans and blacks fighting like banshees. In New York, it's Puerto Ricans against the Dominicans. The idea that you can step forward and just say, oh, we're for unity and tolerance. No, I mean, like I say, this will be the one fun we'll have in the new country. The great accomplishment of the Women's March seems to be selling a lot of T-shirts.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Actually, we know in 2018 there was a record number of turnout of women who got elected to the Democratic Party. I know that's not usual for
Republicans, a lot of people.
Since they have all white males who were elected, except for the one white female that was elected. But diversity is a part of the story.
White men are still running your party, whereas only about 20% of the Democratic voters are white men. But wow, look at the leadership. Look at all the Democrats running. Your nominee is probably going to be Beto O'Rourke. There are only a few women even running. White men run your party. If you have anybody to complain to, it's the Democratic Party.
Oh, come on. Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden are very diverse, Ann. That's not fair at all. But I think the Women's March, look, I don't agree with them, but they did turn out a lot of people. And the Republicans have taken a page out of some of the organizing of the Democrats. But I appreciate the conversation, guys. Thanks so much. By the way, are we witnessing a 21st century version of segregation? Seriously. Wait until you hear about a vacation promotion that bans people from participating based on their skin color. The heated debate next.